Hi friends, once again I welcome all of you to the annual refresher program in teaching commerce named Financial Markets and Emerging Business Models offered by UGC-MMTTC, University of Kerala. In this module, that is 3.7, I am going to touch upon the Indian e-commerce industry, the advantages and opportunities for Indian markets through e-commerce as a business model, and the available growth drivers in the existing market. I will also discuss on the popular strategies adopted by players in the Indian market. We also discussed on mobile commerce and social commerce as new business models in the current perspective. I am Dr. Asha E. Thomas, Assistant Professor, St. Paul's College, Kalamassery, Kerala. The Indian e-commerce industry has been on an upward growth trajectory for the past few years. Started slowly in the year 1995 after the introduction of Internet, e-commerce in India is poised for rapid growth with increasing Internet penetration and availability of budget smartphones. The industry is expected to surpass US to become the second largest in the world next to China by 2034. Through the Digital India campaign, the Government of India is aiming to create a $1 trillion online economy by 2025. India is the fastest growing market for e-commerce industry. Indian markets are expected to rise approximately by 1,200% by 2026. Rise in digital literacy has led to an influx of investment in e-commerce firms, leveling the market for new players. 100% FDI under automatic route is permitted in the marketplace model of e-commerce. Government initiatives like Startup India, Digital India, along with rising internet penetration and favorable foreign direct investment policies are providing greater support in the growth of startup ecosystem. The proposed investment by Government of India in the fiber network for 5G internet connections will also help in boosting e-commerce industries. In India, e-commerce industry was first introduced by Rediff when they added online shopping to their portal. Soon after Rediff, India Times also entered Indian market. However, none of the two companies were able to extensively convince the country to shop online. For the Indian population, it was Indian Railways Catering and Tourism Corporation (IRCTC) that catalyzed the online commerce platform in the year 2002. The Government of India experimented the online strategy to make it convenient for the public to book the train tickets. IRCTC online passenger reservation system paved the way for the online ticket booking from anywhere, anytime. Over the years, advancements in the technology made IRCTC online system as one of the most self-sophisticated e-commerce platforms. This was a big achievement in the history of India in the field of online e-commerce. Now let's discuss on National E-commerce Policy. Electronic commerce is emerging as a key enabler and critical determinant of India's growth and economic development. To realize the full potential of e-commerce sector, India should have a robust administrative, regulatory and legal mechanism. The country's national e-commerce policy lays down strategies to address the issues pertinent to the sector. The policy addresses 6 broad issues of e-commerce e-system, namely data, infrastructure development, e-commerce marketplaces, regulatory issues, stimulating domestic digital economy and export promotion through e-commerce. Data is any type of information converted into a binary digital form that is efficient to store, process and transfer across different devices, platforms, servers and geographical borders. Data generated over the internet platform is automatically stored in the data cloud. This data can either be standalone individual data like the financial details of a customer, or it can be at the level of a community or state or even country. It can be used for analytical, statistical, business and security purpose. Generating economic benefits from data is an important business model adopted by many corporations in the country. Data generated by activity in one area can provide a competitive edge for a new business in another area. Digital algorithms like Internet of Things or IoT can mine a vast amount of unstructured data from diverse sources for identifying trends and patterns in consumer behavior. The more the data, the better are the results from artificial intelligence in analyzing this data. In short, access to data has emerged as a main determinant of success of an enterprise in the digital platform. Indian national policy acknowledges this importance of data in digital world and identifies the means to protect data, enhance data security, prevent violation of privacy matters and create domestic standards for devices which are used to store, process and access data. An individual owns the right to the data. Therefore, if all the data of an individual is used for some business purposes, it must be with his or her consent. The data of a country is a collective resource, a national asset. A comprehensive framework for protecting privacy of Indian citizens is in the pipeline with the Data Protection Bill. However, presently there is no legal framework that would permit the government to impose restrictions on cross-border flow of data. Without having access to the huge data source, the possibility of Indian businesses in creating a high-value digital product is almost impossible. Further, by not imposing restrictions in cross-border data flow, India would be shutting the doors for the creation of high-value digital products within the domestic boundaries. It is hence vital that we retain the control of data, since that can become a major job creator in the country. Governments and other regulatory bodies are finding it difficult to deal with the issues thrown up by the digital economy with respect to data management. Existing law and regulations need to be revised to consider the changing business models. This should include IoT, network effects, months of delivery, treatment of data, online marketplaces, online placing of orders and so on. In short, the nature of regulatory challenges has changed. The interdisciplinary nature of e-commerce has made the situation more complex. Changes in regulations are underway. E-commerce, when it takes place within the country, falls under the category of interstate trade and commerce. So, it has been allocated to the centre under Schedule 7 of the Constitution. For our country to take the benefit from e-commerce platforms and make use of reach that internet provides, there are many aspects which need to be smoothened out. Now let's see the impact of GST on e-commerce. Under the earlier tax laws in India, there were no clear treatment of online sales. With the introduction of goods and service tax, proper rules and regulations for the e-commerce operators like Amazon, Flipkart and its sellers came into picture. GST was implemented in India with the objective to enforce a single comprehensive indirect tax regime that will be applicable across all states on the supply of goods and services. GST can enhance the operational efficiency of e-commerce industry in many ways. It can ensure transparency in the e-commerce transactions, simplification of taxes across the borders in India, elimination of the incidence of double taxation and also bring improvement in the supply chain efficiency. As we all know, the growth of e-commerce has been substantial throughout the world. However, certain country-specific regulatory and taxation issues still act as a path breakers for the industry. As per Section 244 of the Central Goods and Services Tax CGST Act 2017, unless the context otherwise requires, the term electronic commerce means the supply of goods or services or both, including digital products over digital or electronic network. As per Section 245 of the CGST Act 2017, unless the context otherwise requires, the term electronic commerce operator means a person who owns, operates or manages digital or electronic facility or platform for electronic commerce. In other words, if a person facilitating actual suppliers to supply goods through their platform, they are called as e-commerce operator. In other case, if a person supplying goods or services on his own account, then he would not be considered as an e-commerce operator. Section 24 of CGST Act provides that the following persons are liable for compulsory registration irrespective of aggregate turnover: every electronic commerce operator, persons who supply goods or services or both other than supplies specified under subsection 5 of section 9 through such electronic commerce operator who is required to collect tax at source under section 52. In case of services notified under section 9(5) of the CGST Act 2017, e-commerce operator will be liable to pay the entire tax in respect of supply of goods and services made through it instead of the actual supplier. Right now, there are 3 services which are notified under this session. 1. Passenger transport services like radio taxi, motor cab. 2. Accommodation services. 3. Housekeeping services like plumbing, carpentering, etc. There is no benefit under composition scheme for online sellers selling goods through e-commerce operator. Composition scheme is a simple scheme under CGST for taxpayers. Here, a dealer can opt out to pay a fixed percentage of turnover as fees in lieu of tax and be relieved from the detailed compliance of the provisions of law. In the context of GST, the net taxable value of suppliers for e-commerce operators is the aggregate value of taxable supplies of goods or services or both, other than the services on which entire tax is payable by the e-commerce operator made during any month by all registered persons through such operator, reduced by the aggregate value of the taxable supplies returned to the suppliers during the said month. Looking into the chart, it can be explained through an example. On top of the table, you can see that the aggregate value of the taxable services is ₹1000. From that, we have to reduce the supplies already returned by the operator, that is ₹200 in this case. Again, we have to reduce the supplies which come under section 9 subsection 5. Here the amount is 200. So, the net value of taxable supplies in this case would be rupees 400. Now, TCS or tax collected at source refers to the tax which is collected by the electronic commerce operator when a supplier supplies some goods or services through its portal, and the payment for that supply is collected by the operator itself. E-commerce operator, as notified by the government, has the responsibility to collect the tax at a rate of 1% from the supplier on the taxable value of the products or services. In case of return filing, the e-commerce operators are required to file the following returns: GSTR 1, GSTR 2, GSTR 3, GSTR 8 and GSTR 9. GSTR 1 is a monthly return that summarizes all outward sales of a taxpayer. GSTR 2 is a monthly return that summarizes the details of inward purchases of taxable goods and services. In the case of GSTR 3, it contains the monthly summary of sales and purchases along with the tax liability. GSTR 8 is a monthly return to be filed by e-commerce operators registered under GST. It contains the gross value of supplies made to the registered persons and also the unregistered persons, and the value of supplies returned by such registered and unregistered persons. The difference between the supplies made and the supplies returned will be the net amount liable for TCS or tax collected at source. GSTR 9 is an annual return to be filed yearly by taxpayers registered under GST. It is a consolidation of all the monthly returns filed in a particular year. E-commerce industry has brought a fundamental change in the way of doing business and on customers engaged across various sectors. The complex and ever evolving ecosystem of these online marketplaces involving multiple parties and transactions is giving rise to a plethora of Indian tax and regulatory issues. Electronic commerce firms shall require a lot of change at the planning and implementation stage itself to adapt to the structural changes brought in through the implementation of GST on 1st July 2017. Now let us look at the impact of e-commerce on MSMEs in India. The growth of micro, small and medium enterprises (MSMEs) in India is critical to meet the national imperatives of financial inclusion and generation of incremental employment in the country. The industries also serve as suppliers to high growth domestic and foreign companies which are investing in the Make in India initiative. Today, as we can see, MSMEs are becoming part of the business ecosystem that enables and continuously supports businesses that provide products with right quality at the competitive prices both in the domestic and international markets. MSMEs in India can raise their productivity and deliver products and services to millions of customers through B2B, B2C and B2G at competitive prices using e-commerce technologies and digital economy. Technology applications such as mobile internet, cloud computing, verifiable digital identity, e-marketing, intelligent transportation and distribution, digital payments and knowledge automation have brought substantial economic and strategic benefits to the MSME sector. Use of e-commerce technologies has created international business opportunities for millions of MSME entrepreneurs. E-commerce platforms have helped to create many MSME startups also. Now can we look at the challenges for MSMEs? Most of the MSMEs in India cannot afford high-skilled staff to mandate e-commerce operation such as product upload, online marketing, shipment, after sales and many more. Lack of training for doing e-commerce is a critical roadblock for the migration to online platforms by MSMEs. Moreover, MSMEs have to deal with different pricing models of different platforms, which is becoming one of the biggest operational challenge. They also have to deal with multiple platforms, as often one platform might not adequately cover the areas as per their requirements. Recently, there is also an increasing focus on mobile applications, which gives an advantage to big merchants who can afford the cost of developing a mobile application. Smaller firms often find this task difficult because of the financial constraints. Preference for credit, where the payment is made generally 30 days after the receipt of goods, is the conventional style in MSME operation. But in B2B e-commerce, payment will have to be made upfront or at the most on cash on delivery mode. MSMEs in India have been generally operating in a traditional manner and were very much dependent on domestic trading activities. But with the growing rate of internet penetration, these business units are also gradually changing their business operations to avail the opportunities to trade through e-commerce platforms. Now let's look at the government initiatives in driving e-commerce and MSMEs. Government of India has taken several initiatives to boost the e-commerce sector in the country. The government's initiatives such as Digital India, Startup India, Make in India and Skill India have contributed well to the growth of e-commerce industry. Some of the popular e-portals which are promoted by the government for services like online reservations, payments, public procurement are ebis.gov.in, which is for central services like industrial licensing, Central Board of Direct Taxes related services, MSME registrations, obtaining no objection certificates for the establishment of businesses and so on. We have already mentioned about IRCTC, which is a prominent portal among all the government e-portals, and it is primarily for the reservation of tickets for Indian Railways and airlines. We have gem.gov.in, which is the government e-marketplace for the public procurement of products and services by the state and central governments and also central public sector undertakings. mca.gov.in is the online portal of Ministry of Corporate Affairs and offers services related to the regulation of companies in the country. eauction.gov.in is the nodal e-auction platform used by the state and central governments in India. In order to legitimize the existing businesses of e-commerce companies, Government of India permitted 100% FDI in the online retail of goods and services under the marketplace model with effect from March 2017. This attracted a lot of foreign investments in the country in this sector. 100% FDI is also allowed in B2B e-commerce in India. However, FDI is not permitted in the inventory based model of e-commerce, which is applicable to those companies that own inventories of goods and services and sell directly to consumers using online platforms. The existing e-commerce companies will have to relook at their business models constantly to ensure its compliance with the regulations issued by the government from time to time. In the course of time, the regulatory bodies also need to ensure a level playing field between the offline and online sellers. So friends, through these three modules 3.5, 3.6 and 3.7, we were discussing on evolving business models. We discussed on electronic commerce, mobile commerce and also on social commerce. In our discussions, we also looked into the Indian e-commerce industry and some of the existing regulatory framework. I hope you had a good time with me. I am Dr. Ashai Thomas, Assistant Professor, St. Paul's College, Kalamassery, Kerala, signing off now.